video. Like, last week I talked about Hibernate, and I talked about it a little bit. I showed some code and stuff like that. That's basically what you're supposed to do every week.
Okay. I just don't want to get dinged because we didn't put timestamps in a video somewhere.
Yeah. Well, the timestamps in the video, that's if, I do my presentation now for you guys,
Yeah.
and I just, in my portfolio, I said, okay, but you cut here in the video, which you can in YouTube, give him a link that just automatically cuts to where you give your demonstration.
All right. But we
That
don't
way
need
it
to
saves him time.
is from what I understand, and that's good because I don't want to be on here for 2 hours.
Yeah, no. That's why I do separate videos. That way you don't even have to worry about cutting to it. You be like, here's my presentation link.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Cool.
So, I like how this group's been doing it. It's just real simple. We give our assignments, and then when we do them, we post them separately.
Works for
So,
me.
Yeah, I've been liking that a lot too.
I did get an email from Aldo, who is in our group. He's desperately trying to figure out how he can still stay in the game here, how he can stay involved. Olin, he says that he tried reaching out to you a couple times, didn't get any response. So we need to keep him in the loop here.
I mean, is the community not good enough?
Yeah, I have no idea.
That's about as simple as you can get, in my opinion. Maybe just I don't know, because we give out the assignments. The things are recorded. You do the assignment and you post it separately in the group. I mean, honestly, this third time around has been the easiest because my last two separate groups, they're like, okay, we're all meeting. You all have to present now, and it was a struggle, really, because it's hard to do things on a tight timetable. We met on Tuesday and we posted things on Thursday because they all had other stuff to do on the weekends, and it was like really hard to do. But
yeah, verbatim here, he says, hello, I'm a little behind all this work you've been doing. I had a surgery last week and still recovering. It's been very difficult for me to meet 2 times a week, especially today, so something I can do to catch up. I really want to try to help the team. I appreciate all your help. Best regards. So I guess one of us will send him a message. I'll send him. I'll just send him a message over Gmail. I said, hey, just try to make the meeting. If you can't, look at the videos. We post them every week on our community board. But I think he wants to be assigned something. So.
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, if you're not here, I'm not going to assign you anything. So, because I've done that in the past 2 semesters with people, and I usually end up spending double the amount of time trying to get people understood and caught up. So he sent me an email on the 24th. I didn't respond to him, but then he forwarded me the same email from the 24th on the 30th.
Yeah, that's it.
So he can look at the community. That's why it's there.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you guys want to reach out to him, have at it. I really don't care. Okay, so I'm just going to, since we're a little short on time here, I'm going to go ahead and present my use case, and then you guys can go afterwards. This will literally be maybe 15 seconds at most. So mine was the add remove users use case. It's only for members as they come and go. It allows both the elders quorum and district supervisors to make those changes once they're authenticated and authorized. Here's the success criteria of a normal scenario when you add or remove members. The extensions are, these are the times where we can have errors. There's on 4A, if the database is unavailable, it'll need to report the error. On 2, it has the chance to report 2 separate errors on 2A. If the user does not show up the one that they're searching for, it'll display that error. And then the same with the database. When they go in to update that user or remove that user, it will show that. My thoughts on the frequency of use is that it would be dependent on ward fluctuation. Some wards have high turnover, others don't. So, but that's it.
Seems straightforward enough.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Very easy.
I can do mine next, unless we have any questions.
No, please go for it.
15
Go.
seconds. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Mine was view reports. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, use case for view reports. The goal of this is to view the summary and the detailed reports. I don't know if we want to get into detail and summary, but that's kind of, when you look at reports, that's what the kind that you get. Primary actor, presidency member, or a secretary, I guess. Conditions: user must have permissions to view reports. And I know not every user can do that in other systems. Post conditions: I don't know if we want to save reports for later use, but we can. And then just the sequence of it. User signs into the app, view reports. They select the report options, what they want to see, and then they view the report, and then they
Which one there, Brendan?
I thought I had that on mute. My apologies.
I don't know what that was.
That was awesome.
Toot your own horn.
Extensions, things we want to add. Users can download the report as a PDF or a doc file if they want to. Exceptions that will be thrown: there's no report data to be shown. There's nothing to report on. That could be bad, but that means there's no connection to a database or nobody's doing their own teaching. And then number 2, user doesn't have any permission to see the data. Frequency of use, it's on demand. I would say the priority of this is high, since we always hear the words together, return and report. I think reports are probably the most important part of this, so that's what I got.
Very good.
Thanks.
Yep.
Here, I can go next. There we go. All right, so mine's just the change permissions. That's the ability for the presidency to change permissions to set others as district supervisors or to remove them as well. Now, this is where I've made a comment where maybe we should separate the supervisors from the presidency, because this is more of an elevated permission type deal. So you have elevated, and then you have a super class basically that can handle the change permissions. And I did no. Okay, I guess I saved the wrong one. Anyways, basically, what happens is, in order to elevate the to supervisor, a presidency member logs in. They can only see the change permissions menu. They scroll through, they select the name, and they basically check or slide the permission to yes, and then it elevates them to a supervisor, giving them access to certain reports and other items. In order to remove it, they select the same menu and they just uncheck it, and automatically, after it saves to the cloud or the hibernate kicks in, it takes those permissions away. The frequency of use is rare, in my opinion. This only happens when there's a change in leadership, specifically just with the supervisors. That doesn't happen too often, maybe once a year or every other year. And I think this priority is very low in this, because this is something that can be done after pretty much everything else is established. They can just make things only seeable if they are a certain user. So I think this is something that should be done last overall, just because, setting permissions, in my opinion, in my experience with coding, is very easy. You just add in a line, if this, or if at least this kind of a level of a user, then they can see it. If not, then not. So, in my opinion, it's a very low priority.
Okay. Very nice.
Just a quick question: are permissions stored in the database? Are those database permissions that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
The way I've done them before, you store them as a numerical value.
Okay.
So like 0, 1, or 2, 2 being the lowest, 1 being second lowest, and 0 being a super user.
Okay.
Agreed.
That's the way I typically done it before.
I've never done permissions in coding like this, so I was just
Yeah,
curious.
you just store it as a separate column, and just user type or permissions, and it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, however you want to do it. And then all it does is in the code you check the user value, and what happens is it pulls it up and it checks it basically. And if it's at least like a 1 or 0, a 1 or lower, then it gives the permissions. If it's not, you don't.
Okay.
All right, I can go next if you guys want.
Go for it.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see here. You guys see that okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is my use case document for the send reminders use case. ID, NA, title, send reminders, description. The goal of this use case is to, whoop, maybe I didn't finish that part. My bad. But the primary actor will be a person, and a precondition for this use case is a user must be logged in. Post conditions are the reminders will be sent. And then a main success scenario would be 1, user logs in, 2, user chooses to send reminders, 3, user chooses who to send reminders to, and then user logs out. And extensions, there are no reminders to be sent. Frequency of use often. I don't know. I've never been like in the presidency or a district supervisor, so I'm not sure if it was like twice a month, once a month. And so I just said often, but I can change that if you guys think it needs to be changed. And then status, pre-development, owner, presidency, and district supervisors, and then is a very high priority.
I did have one blurb to throw out in this topic here.
Sure.
Another idea I thought we wanted to have as send reminders is have it be system-based, where if it's approaching the end of the month and such families from such companionship had not been visited yet, it would send an automatic reminder. It wouldn't be user-driven, it would be system-driven based on the date and status of the visit.
Oh, okay. So in that case, I could change the primary actor to like a automation, or how do you think best to implement that in this use case document?
Systems an actor, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, server or systems or database, it would be the primary actor in this case. It'd be on the other side of the diagram.
Okay, that would certainly make it a lot more convenient.
See, that way it doesn't have to necessarily be user-driven.
No, the system figured it.
That's right. My understanding is that this is going to be entirely system-driven, as an automated reminder sender, depending on if a family has not been visited yet in the month.
Okay, right on. I'll make that change into the description. Anything else, you guys?
Not for me.
Well, based on that, what you just said, I'll have to change the main success scenario because obviously a user's not going to log in and then choose to send a reminder.
Right.
Yeah, the system basically would check on a certain day who's completed what. If anything's been unreported, then send reminders. We're getting pseudocode, but that's just how I think.
Right, so if such and such date happens like 7 days before the end of the month, hey, check through all the reports, right? Who hasn't been visited, put together a list of those names, who do those families belong to, what companionship, send those companionship members a message.
Yeah, families would be a separate class, and then you can assign it a value of 0 or 1 if they've been visited, and then it just goes through and checks it.
Right.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I'll make those changes and then upload the updated one to the project folder in the team thing.
Cool. Yeah, this whole thing's evolving. I mean, nothing's set in stone, but
No,
Right.
this is how you're supposed to do it. You do the use case, then you evolve into the use case diagrams, and then the class diagrams.
Perfect.
So speaking of, unless there's another document we need to go over,
Yeah, I've got mine too to go over.
please go ahead.
All right. All right, see that all right?
Yep, got it.
Okay, so I split this into two just because it got kind of wordy between districts and companionships, and I thought maybe there were some slight changes or differences between the two. But basically, it works the same way. If you've done it on the church's website and setting up these, it's kind of the same way. Of course, your actor is going to be, the elders, quorum leaders, and district supervisors. They're just going to basically, if they can add, edit, or delete. In either case, you're going to be presented with a list of who can, be in a companionship, and then they're just going to select one or two, or I suppose you could select more than that if we wanted to. 3 people to be in a companionship. And same thing with remove. You click on remove, it's going to show the companionships. You're going to pick the one you want to remove, and then I think it's fairly basic in the way most things are set up. I'll flip over. I could flip over the other one, but I guess one of my questions is, and I didn't just particularly spell this out here, is does it matter if the district comes before a companionship or vice versa, or is it going to be you could create either one, without the other? Does anybody have any opinions on that?
I'm not quite following your question. Can you phrase it again?
Like when you start setting up the quorum, and you want to say, do you make a district first? Do you make a companionship first, or does it matter? Are we going to?
Typically, you'll want to have companionships before they can be assigned to a district. So theoretically, I guess you could do it either way.
Right. And that's why I wasn't sure if that was an extension. If we'd throw an error, if we wanted to say you have to do a district first, should it throw an error if you try to do a companionship first? Just to say, hey, you got to do this first.
Yeah, well, I think my opinion is, since I've done a lot with databases, is you would assign the companionship first, because then you can assign each user a foreign key to the companionship. Then each companionship item can have a foreign key to the district level.
So when you create the companionship, you would have to come back at a later time and assign them to a district?
Yeah. You would create the companionships, and then you would assign the companionships to a district. Now, on the user end, it would seem seamless. But on the back end, what's going to have to happen is the companionship, the two elders would be assigned the same foreign key to the companionship, and then on the companionship level, they would be assigned a foreign key to the district.
That sounds about right.
If you haven't worked much with databases, basically it's a foreign key is a reference to another table.
Right. No, I understand that. I was just kind of walking through the steps. When you create the companionship, is it at that point you can assign them to a district that doesn't exist, or you'd have to make it on the fly right then and there?
Yeah, the district level would have to exist first, because that's how you assign it to it. So technically, I guess the district level has to be created, but you can't add anything until you create the companionship.
Okay, so I'm just thinking the very first time they're setting things up, we'd have to make that an option.
Yeah, they can add companionship. They can create a companionship and create a district, and then from there they can add them.
Right. Okay. So do we need a separate level of assigning, or a separate use case to assign versus add or edit, or is that all kind of together?
I'll show you what I'll show you what I have for a sequence diagram on the matter. This is actually going to be one of the most complicated steps of our whole project, as far as I can tell, is working with companionships, just how those are going to interact. It's going to be the dirtiest part of this whole thing, I think, but I think it's off to a good start. I think we're all of the same mind here. That said, let me go ahead and share my screen, and let me go over some sequence diagrams here. I've split them in two kind of categories. You've got the standard user and the super user. Think of the super user as a member of the presidency or the president. Okay. There's really two things that we decided that our standard user can do. You can look at your route. So that's what the user would do, is just get route. So it goes to the families, returns the families that has that association to his sign-in, right? So just for my companionship. And that's it. That's all it does, okay? If I want to report on my home teaching, then it goes to the families and say, hey, I did my home teaching for this family. Then that goes to families, which logs the visit. And then that's something that I think is important to implement here in our app. So it's going to confirm every change, like, okay, is this what you want to do? Yes. Or if it's not, no, and then it doesn't actually commit them. Okay? So for the normal user, there's only two things you can really do. You can look at your route or your families, whatever you want to call it. You can report on them.
Before you switch to the super user, let me ask what your thoughts are on this, and you can tell me maybe version 2.0, but what are your thoughts for the user to get having some sort of reporting for themselves to go back and either historical data or something to say, well, how have I been doing, you know, something that the presidency may see, but just on that particular user level?
I'm sorry, you broke up there at the start. Can you say again?
Yeah, what do you think as users getting some sort of reporting back for just themselves of how they've been doing, like on an annual basis or something?
Yeah, I think that's very possible.
I think that would be easy to do.
Yeah, as long as we keep it correct in the database, they can just reference their own table and look up their past history of reports.
Right.
Whereas supervisors can go beyond that.
Is that something we want to do, or would we say version 2.0?
I think we've got a lot on the plate to start with. Personally.
Yeah, I say 2.0. Honestly, once you get the reports done for the supervisor level, it won't be that hard to do it for the individual.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. So for our super user, that's our presidency. Okay. If we want to view reports, they'll select the option View Reports, which fetches all the families from the database, returns all the families back to the user. Okay, and that's going to have all their names and the history of those logs, you know, where they reported or where they not. That's it, right? That's all this does. And this is for everybody, right? I suppose we could work it out if we want to have it per companionship, per district, but for right now, I'm just having it for everybody. Like Brandon was saying, it's going to be very easy to implement to have the other options available.
Yeah, all it is a query, basically. When you run a report with the database, it's just a pre-built query, and it just runs. So you don't even have to think about it.
But we're doing everything in Java, so same
Hibernate.
Same concept. Yeah, hibernate. Okay, add remove members, right? Quorum changes throughout the year, so only the super users available to add people or not. First thing you gotta do is you gotta get the list of all the families, right? And you have to remove a family. So you put in what you want it to do, right? If you're removing, you'll select the family. If you're adding, you'll put in the family information. That's sent to the families case here, where it's added or dropped from the list. And the same thing, confirm the change. Edit companionship is probably break this down here. First thing is companionships. Okay, we need to see who we're working with. So send to reports, get all the companionships. Okay, I'm assuming the actual companionships are kept in reports, right? Not families. Families is like the members. That's everybody. Reports is where everything's managed. From there, you're going to say you're going to edit the companionship. I put this on a blanket statement, edit companionship. This is adding, removing, or hand. Goes to a condition within families. If you're adding the companionship, right, which is brand new people, you got to add some families to it. the super user will select the family, send it back. It's assigned to the companionship, confirm the changes. If you're removing a companionship, that's going to drop the families from the companionship. They're now going to be home teacher lists. Okay? Confirm the changes. And likewise with edit companion, or if you're editing a companionship, you're going to be adding families. Are there any questions on this one?
Nope.
Okie dokie. Last one's pretty straightforward. Permissions, right? If you have a super user, you want to change permissions, it's going to give you all, right? Select your user. You're going to change their permission. This will either promote or demote, effectively changing from a 1 to a 0, or vice versa. There's only going to be two users there. Hi, Chandler.
Hi, sorry I missed. It's been a madhouse.
Yeah, that's all right. Sounds like it. Anyway, after the user permissions changed, confirm the change. Now, if you're a super user and you've demoted yourself, this is going to log you out because you no longer have access to these super permission options. So you'll sign back in, and then you'll have just the normal standard options available to you again until such a super user lets you back in. The only exception to this that I just thought of is if there's only one super user in the entire database, he's not allowed to demote himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad.
That's an easy fail-safe to build.
Nobody can do anything. So that is one change I need to make in here. Is if there's only one super user left, you can't demote yourself. You're not allowed. Any questions for me on any of this?
Looks good.
No.
Awesome. I just finished the final touches on this one. I apologize that it's late. I took a lovely weekend to myself. I know I'm selfish, but deal with it.
Yeah, dude, I did too.
And I'll get this posted on the community here shortly. All right, turning the time back to Olin, the taskmaster.
So basically at this point we just need to kind of work through our class diagram and kind of what we want to end up putting into this application. I was thinking that we could start off with the model layer. It's usually the simplest just because that's where the data ends up being stored, and from there you can build your control and view layers. Let's see here.
Should we get a UML class diagram going?
Yeah, I think a class diagram is the next step. I think we can all contribute if we correlate on a one document in Drive, and we all can just work on it together.
Yeah, because I don't think we're quite ready to start actually coding. We're nowhere near that stage yet for at least another week.
Right.
Speaking of, what do people like using for their UMLs? Visual Paradigm or Visio? Those are the two big hitters I've been seeing.
Whatever's free.
Well, they're all free through Dreamscape.
I use
So.
Paradigm, but then I resorted back to Visio just because it's so much easier to drag and drop stuff.
It really is. I've converted over the last couple of weeks from Paradigm to Visio.
Paradigm's good for class diagrams, but for other stuff, I think it's better to use Visio.
And for those of you who don't have Visio, this is a free download from courtesy of BYU Idaho through Dreamscape.
Any Microsoft
Yeah,
product, any of them, including Windows.
Yeah.
Get them while you can before you graduate, like me.
Plus, you get
Right.
VMware too. VMware you get Fusion, Workstation, Player, any of that stuff. It's free.
Yeah, I am doing a lot of downloading the last week that I'm in this class.
Yeah. Me too.
My ISP is going to scream at me.
Yep.
No, it's not about the downloading. It's about the product key. Just get the product
The
key.
product key's good for, I think, forever on Office stuff, but
Yeah.
VMware, it's only a year. You get 1 year, maybe 2. But still, that saves you $100. If you have a Mac, Fusion's is $100.
Yeah.
Then again, if you have a Mac, you're not worried about money. Sorry, it's a bad joke.
Okay. So we've got families, which is one option. Would you want to tie, because this would have multiple individuals, would there also be an individual class or a person?
That's what I was wondering about, is do we really want to have it called family, or do we want to have it called member? And or map.
You want, in my opinion, you want a member. It always needs to be the head of the household, because then you can reference to a family table for that individual person. At least
Yeah, I was going to say
as
head
far
of
as I
household.
remember. Go ahead.
Head of household is probably what I would. I mean, if you're gonna, if we can get the API, that's what we're gonna reference back to.
Yeah. So you have the head of household, which references to their family.
So do you want it named families or head of household?
Head of household's too long. Head of household's too long of a name.
You could just shorten it to like HOH,
Yeah.
like that.
So we got 3 classes. We got person, families, and HOH so far, with no attributes really. And why are these not wanting to line up? Like they don't want. Whatever. Sorry. An overtended person like me.
Vizio.
But normally it usually has the lock lines.
Oh, I know. It's a snap. It's probably just a snap feature you've got turned off.
No, it'll lock this way. See, I got the lock lines. It just won't lock this way the way I want it. Whatever. Okay, so HOH. What are the attributes of an HOH?
Well, you got your primary ID.
I'm just going to throw this out there, but I did decent with the sequel class. Like, I survived, but dang, I'm no specialist. So conceptually, I'm there, but actually doing database work, man, I stink at it.
So let's see here. You got your primary key, which is your ID. Then you got your first name, middle name, last name.
Are we gonna want a phone number on there or anything like that?
Yeah, just do a phone.
Well, it takes me one, like a phone number, address, city,
Standard
state, zip.
Yeah,
That's
your
really
email address, maybe.
Birthday, date of birth. Yeah, we could do email address as well. Just, basic contact information there. And what's even cooler, I'm thinking ahead on this, but when you actually populate like your report, like view family, it'll take the date of birth and calculate how old they are in years. That'd be cool.
Membership number,
Yes.
number. That's a natural key we can use
Correct.
to tie to the person.
Yep.
You could even just have that be their ID, their primary key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's also a natural key. And you can actually. Oh, I'm just thinking here.
Will they give us access to that number?
I think we'll have to fictionalize it.
Unless you're the president's member. Or maybe even a membership pick. I don't know.
Well, as a presidency member, you have access to everyone's membership IDs.
Yeah, that's true. LDS tool, it used to not have it, but now I know it's there.
Yeah, it is. But even so, I think we're just going to be fictionalizing that data.
Right.
So it doesn't matter.
So is that all encompassing?
Yeah, that also all encompasses, if I can be bold here, that's almost the same thing as person as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say to avoid bloat, HOH probably should just be an ID and probably just the name. Actually, HOH can just be the ID, couldn't it? Because then the ID can refer to the person.
In person, right?
Yeah, you'd want inheritance one way or another.
Yeah, and they can. Yeah, HOH can inherit all the person's stuff and then be assigned to a family ID.
Right.
Why do we need HOH?
Because that's how you can. Oh, how? Let me think here. I guess you can take out the families and just use the head of household as the families. You can assign a person to a head of household, and that's technically a family, isn't it?
Yeah, let's just need those two things.
That's why I'm
That's
thinking
what I'm
just kind of
thinking.
simplify it here. Just have member, and that is going to constitute not only just everybody in the quorum, but also all the families you can draw from. That's going to save us a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, and I think you had it right. You had like HOH ID or something like that. That would just assign them basically a family, or a family ID or something. So the family class would have two IDs technically.
The only reason why you wouldn't want something like that is if we want to have, say, Dan, right, and his family, Emily, Zarissa, Katerina, right, other members of the family, but I am head of family, so it depends if you want to fictionalize family members or just quorum members and have them be the families. I think for a complete app, we should have whole families. But having just head of household, yeah, I just think that should just be an ID.
Well, I guess you can add a column in the member table that says, is house of head of household, and that could be just a Boolean, yes or no.
Correct. There's something to be said about parents and children as well in all of this.
Or you can I guess change that column to an attribute type, and just put. You can have relationship type or a relationship attribute, and you can set it as, I guess. Well, now we're getting really complicated.
Yeah, but we're just doing a reporting. We're not doing a database of who's who in the ward, right?
No, we're doing a database of fictional members of an elders quorum, and some of these members have families that will need to appear on, say, your home teaching route. Like, here's the family you're home teaching, and here's all their names.
Okay. So the little white piece of paper you get.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That little white piece of paper. That's what we're fictionalizing and trying to create.
Okay.
So those kind of things like name, address, phone number, date of birth, right? How old are they?
Right.
Who are the parents? Who are the children? That's what member needs to establish. What's visit?
So you tie. Well, I'll get into it in a bit, but either way,
Okay.
visit would be tying the family and the companionships and a date together. So you'd have your date here, you'd have your family ID, and this is probably something for later since we haven't gotten that yet, but companionship ID.
Yep.
Come on. Notes or any type of needs or what was noticed while they were there. Kind of a way for you to report back. So and so needs help with this and that. Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you a way. This gives you another table to tie companionships to families and visits.
Just real quick, I think under member, you can put another data type for is quorum a member, or if they're a member of a certain quorum.
That would be head of household. Assume the head of household is a member of the quorum.
Well, what about high priests?
We're not dealing with high priests. It's just the elders quorum.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, someone could be head of household but not a member of the elders quorum.
High priests do their own home teaching, though. Just like elders do theirs. So I don't know if that's a feature that we would need to implement. I know in the church reporting you can view high priest home teaching, but you can't assign a high priest to an elders quorum route without bishop permission.
Okay, and that's what I was worried about because I home teach a high priest family.
Yeah, so bishop would have to give.
It's an exception.
Yep, bishop would have to give presidency approval during ward council for that to happen. Same thing as if you're going to assign a teacher or a priest to an elders quorum companionship, like a father-son, bishop's got to approve it. So I think that's one problem we can just toss out.
We'll worry about that about 2.0, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's going to be our second motto for the team. We'll worry about that in 2.0.
Yeah, I think you're going to need 2 columns, so for the foreign keys for 2 separate member IDs in companionship.
Wouldn't you have users that would have a foreign key for companionship, which ties to that? And then you use the companionship ID tying into this for visits. Now you could do that. You could have member 1, member 2. Since it should never grow.
Yeah, just their member IDs. Yeah, elder member ID 1 and 2.
Here, I gotta step away for a moment here, guys.
So this would tie to that, which ties to this.
And then member ID also ties to family.
Yeah. That's one thing we need in here.
And visit ID references to companionship ID. Yep, and family ID.
That way members are tied to families by the...
Yeah, there's the foreign key, yep.
Which has a family name. I'm not sure. You know, I'm curious if we want to have, like, this, that. These 4 tied to a family versus a member.
I'm thinking.
Not the phone, but the address, city, state, and zip. Because otherwise,
the family is the household, then yeah, I would think you would. I mean, that would make more sense.
Yeah.
You can repeat that information over and over.
Okay.
It does not like that. One thing I like about using Paradigm is that you can do the get set automatically, unless there's some place in here that it's hidden.
Can you really? I did not know that.
Yes. You can
That's
highlight
awesome.
all the ones you want, and it'll do the getters and setters for you. Phone, date of birth, email, family ID. Okay.
Why are we copying all this info into families?
Because if you have families, we're considering are based on a logical unit that live at the same location. If you are a member but you live somewhere else, you're no longer a part of that family. You're your own head of household at whatever place you're at. So each family has its own tied address, city, state, and zip, and then the family members are thrown into that based on the location. Otherwise, if they live somewhere else, then they are their own head of household in their own address.
They would also technically be their own family.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that same scenario happened with me when I was living by myself in the same ward as my mom. I got pulled out from underneath her and put into my own family. So, so visit has its date. Which date I'm considering has time in it, so I'll just maybe just date time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like it really matters much, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have to have like a specific time when something was reported as a visit. Just this month they were visited.
Well,
I mean, you could timestamp it if you really want to.
Mm-hmm. That's
But,
the easiest way.
Whichever way makes it.
Because each
easiest
report
to-
would create a new row, basically, and it doesn't have to be in order, or you don't need a separate table. Just the visit table will just be this huge, enormous table with all these reports, and that's how you will build your query for your reports. Just you reference to the visit table, which has 500 rows or whatever, and then it just pulls out. It looks at the date timestamp, and then that gives you the report.
Nice.
So the visit table is going to be infinitely huge. It's going to grow every single month.
Oh yeah. But as far as what the user will see, though, honestly, all they should see is January visited, yes or no.
Yeah.
For the. For the household.
That's just a quick query too.
Mm-hmm.
My head's starting to hurt with thinking about the queries.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Join this, union on this column, and
So I'm curious if we want to make member, it's like the member versus login table is different. Because there's no, I mean, you could tie a username into this as well, but
yeah, no, I like how you added the privilege one.
I put privilege into there, but I mean, unless you make username a non-required field. Username.
Yeah, because username can be separate from first name or whatever. My usernames.
How do you want to handle the password?
Exactly. You end up, basically, this becomes the entire table for your login as well as your member list.
Correct. That's the way I envisioned it with the flow of events as well.
I guess you can have a separate table that uses the username as the foreign key. That way you keep your password separate into a separate table. Yeah, perfect. An authentication table. Plus, that way it makes the query a lot faster.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, who thought this would be this complicated?
I know.
I did. I did. I knew it would be, but that's why I voted for it. I'm always up for a really good challenge because that promotes mastery, understanding, competency,
Well,
and A grade.
once we get this done, then coding's the easy part. Making it work is a challenge.
Maybe for those who speak Java.
I was gonna say,
Oh.
speak for yourself.
In my opinion, I think it's easier once you know how you want it to work. You can easily look up how to code it. It's just trying to get the relationships understood between
Hey,
all the
Olin, go ahead and
classes.
put a. Sorry to interrupt. Olin, can you put a boolean next to privilege there? Let's just do a 1 and a 0.
1 and a
So
0.
Yeah. So normal user is a 1. Super user is a 0. Just keep things easy. If you're a district leader, / supervisor, what do you want to call it? It's the same thing. That can be its own.
But wouldn't we need a third one for just a quorum member?
You can do just 0, 1, and 2.
Well, a 0 would be a super user, like a member of the presidency. A 1 would be a normal quorum member. They have limited functionality within the app.
But there was additional split between district leaders and the quorum presidency.
They wouldn't have any extra privileges. District leaders are members of the presidency.
I understand, but there was a split between being able to edit companionships and families.
I was just saying make it a numerical value, 0, 1, or 2.
Right. But I don't see how. See, as a member of the presidency, whether you're a president, first or second counselor, you still have all rights and privileges associated with working within. I lost my train of thought.
There's district leaders that are not part of the presidency, though.
Traditionally, they are, though. So I guess that's the assumption we want to go on. Should we have it to where they are members of the presidency, or are they not? I've never heard of a ward where they weren't.
So in my ward, there are 5 district presidencies or presidents. So.
Wow, how big is your elders quorum?
Quite large. I mean, for Texas at least.
All right.
And plus, there's lots of people that call different roles. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, I don't care. I'll just put it as Boolean.
Well, yeah, because that's an easy fix. Even in Hibernate, we can quickly create a different privilege level once we get the basics worked out.
Well, we can if we have a privilege as an integer. If we have it as a Boolean, that's pretty black or white, pun intended.
Well, that's the thing. Privileges aren't black and white. There's mixtures.
Well, Boolean is black and white. That's further, but never mind. It's a bad joke.
Anything else?
I think that's everything, to be honest, because the reports are a query built on the visit table, referencing to the companionships. Authentication is when they log in.
What about reminders? Are we going to keep? Is that something the user can specify when that automatically gets sent out? If so, we need something for that.
I thought we were just making it automatically on the database.
Correct. We're going to make that an automatic.
Okay. So
No,
users can't specify
That's
when
just
that-
a query real quick to the visit table. What it does, it checks. Well, now, how is that going to work?
It just checks to see if it has a visit in that month to that family.
Yeah. The way I kind of structured
We have
that.
to assign families to the companionship, right? That's what we're missing.
So let's do.
There's something to be said about districts as well. And we'll need to talk about our display as well.
Roots and districts, yeah.
Oh my gosh, really? It has no rhyme nor reason to what it wants to lock to.
But if you hold control while you're moving it, usually that gives a little more freedom.
So
Companionship IDs and family IDs. think that's all you need.
We also need a display class.
Yeah, right now we're just working on the model class because it does take a while to get
Oh,
that
gotcha.
all methodically thought out. Yes.
Understood. Yeah, I missed the model class part.
Yeah, we still have the view, which is the class you're talking about, and then the control. So, speaking of which,
Now, do we need a separate? Yeah, we do need a separate district level, a district class. And that would just be the routes ID, or route, or however you want to call it. Bam.
that's actually the wrong thing to update.
Yeah, it's on the wrong line.
Or let's think that out.
It's got to tie back to the companionship as well, right?
Yeah, I don't think it would tie back to the route. I'm trying to think how that would.
You're also going to need the district leader to tie that back too.
Oh yeah. It would be companionship, wouldn't it? And the district ID would have the leader ID on it, or
Yeah.
Right.
member ID of the district leader.
How many districts do we want to have? Just how? Actually, yeah. If we can, how big do we want to have this quorum for our theoretical
Let's
quorum?
just leave it as 3 for the presidency.
I would agree with that. Okay.
So then your district. What to call it?
Supervisor ID,
Yeah.
and that's the same as a member ID.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I hate to have it the name of something different. I'm just gonna put member ID, and hopefully we'll all remember that that's a supervisor. I hate to have different names for stuff that it makes these links hard to understand.
That'll be the trickiest part. It's just all of us remembering after today.
District route, companionship,
Yeah,
families.
everything goes.
I think that's everything.
Because yeah, if you start from the district, let's just talk about companionships right now. You create your district. Its name, it's whatever you want to make it, but has the member ID, which is the supervisor. So now you have your district, which companionships are tied to the district ID. Elder 1 and 2 are in there. It has a name as well. Again, it's kind of irrelevant, I guess. It's not really required. Then it's got an ID, which the routes have the companionship ID as well as the family's ID tied into it. Which then families have members tied into it. So there's that tree. And then visits is its own table, kind of separate from everything else for the reporting functionality. As
Would
is
you? Sorry, would you add gender under member?
and
I think that's it.
We can even have, for district name, just have it be the name of that supervisor. Unless you really want Hufflepuff and Gryffindor district. At least that's how they do it under reporting. That looks good.
Yeah, it looks really
That's
good.
really tight. Everything.
No bloating or anything like that. It looks pretty clean.
It doesn't really look like a whole lot is actually. Nothing's repeated. I'm really trying to look through here, seeing if there's
Yeah, that's
anything
what
that
I'm
we
looking through.
duplicated.
Yep.
Everything's really tight.
That's going to reduce the size of this a lot.
It really will.
Because size also is a issue, but the bloat's pretty much being avoided in my opinion, and
Modularization's a beautiful thing.
Yep. Now the queries basically should be able to handle the controlling part.
That's all the control really is.
It's the queries. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you write in Java, use Hibernate to connect the database to Java, basically. And
that's awesome. I really like where this is going.
now, do we have to worry about the other stuff like serialization and all that stuff? That's all on the Java side, right? Encapsulation.
Yeah, it is. It is. We'll be able to get to that. But for now, where we're getting all the diagramming, the design done, this is
yeah, this is very clean.
Direction.
This is extremely clean. And honestly, like, I don't see this being too far from being able to integrate the API. I haven't heard back yet. It was a holiday weekend, so I'm sure that's probably why I haven't heard back yet.
Yeah.
But it's looking very good.
After we get all the getters and setters in place, there's not a whole lot more that I can really think of.
No. It's just building the queries like I've been repeating myself like a broken record. It's
You love queries.
That class is actually helping me. That 225 class, I'm just like, well, it's 325. I'm going, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's all you do every week is build queries. Build queries.
I'm putting off 325 as much as I can. 225 broke me. It broke me.
A rough class.
I just got done with it, dude, and it killed me.
Oh, it's horrible. I could not stand it.
It is a rough class.
The quizzes and the exams, I did fine. That wasn't a problem. The actual work, oh my gosh. No. Boo.
Killed me.
So 325. I know it's gonna be done by Brother McLaughlin. He's the one who designs all of this stuff.
You know, the description of the class was what was it? Back end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see any back end in that at all. All I saw was learning how to code specific programs in PL SQL. That was it. Hello World in PL SQL. That's all we did the entire class.
Yeah.
The online class was very far from the, I think, on campus.
I wanted to know, how do I set up storage? How do I set up services? How do I set up?
That's 425.
Yeah, I guess that's the next, and that's not even required, so I'm not going to worry about that.
Yeah, forget it. No, like I'm required to do two SQL courses, and I'm never going to do it again.
Yeah.
He asked me, my instructor asked me, hey, have you considered an internship? I said, no. He said, well, if you're serious about getting an internship, we can talk to some people. I said, no offense, but I really don't like this. He says, but you've done so well. And I'm like, well, yeah, I understand theoretically how it's supposed to work, but typing it and like doing the queries, I honestly did not complete the last 3 labs. I just didn't even attempt. I'm like, forget it. I got an A. I'm done.
That's how I was.
Never again. So anyway, I digress.
So that's all it is you're doing is just getting sets, right, Owen?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, like I was saying, that's the only reason why I like visual paradigms. I can right-click and say, put getters and setters, and it does all this for me.
Nice.
Yeah, so, but yeah, this shouldn't take me too much longer. I'll put this out on the drive, and then we will...
we'll all report it and be like...
Go ahead.
No. I'm just like, woo, we got the class diagram done.
Can we also get a PDF of this posted on our community?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome.
Turn in the use cases at all, or is this just something we're doing? Or how does that work?
This is the class diagram.
Yeah, it's different or separate from that.
I know, but were we supposed to turn those in, or are we supposed to turn those in to the instructor?
No, you can use them as like, this is the one I worked on for your
Learning
portfolio.
portfolio. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
But
Make sure I
yeah, it's
wasn't.
not like the group turns everything in kind of junk.
No. Like
Okay.
you can turn the PDF of this into your understanding portfolio, and you can reference the video and be like, "We worked on this as a group. We all understand how this happened and how it got together."
So for this week, I'm going to be reviewing Hibernate in much detail since we're really going to be pushing on that. I'm also going to look into serialization. So since a lot of this, we actually got a lot done tonight, more than I thought we would. I'm actually going to go in depth in a lot of these topics for this week. Next week, do we want to hit up the view layer and control layer and kind of keep going with our design, collaborate together, or do we want to meet later this week and keep hammering through? Because we only got 6 weeks left to implement all of this from design to finish.
Yep.
Okay. So are we okay to take one more week on design before we really start coding? Or maybe even 2 weeks if we really think that we're good.
I think next week we wrap up the other two parts of the MVC, and because this was the biggest part of it, basically.
Yeah.
Controllers and the view should be just real. View is calling these up and placing them where we want them.
Yeah.
And controller is just how we interact with it. So
let's take another week on the design part and really solidify and make sure we're all aware of what's going on. As far as people, I mean, 7 people showing up, that's not bad. That's actually better than I expected. So that's all right.
This week I'm going to post an example of the threads. What is it? Threads and exceptions?
A lot. It's a bunch of them.
Okay.
Threads, exceptions, blah 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 blah. It's like 4 or 5 things in a row.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll be tackling, and actually, I think I have an actual APK I put up on Drive that you guys can download, install on your phones. It's not anything bad. It's just a quick, hey, this is how threading works.
Cool.
It's the APK on the Drive. For those with Android. For those with the iPhones, I'm sorry, I hate iPhones, and I can't.
I'll put it on. I've got an Android.
It's so simple. It just, you see a countdown timer, and then a button pops up. But what it is multi-threading the countdown and checking to see if the button should appear at the same time. I'll show the code and all that stuff in my video this week.
Cool.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Olin, are you okay to hammer this stuff out?
Yeah, it won't take me much longer.
All right.
Cool.
Sounds good. Then I'm going to go ahead and step away.
See you guys.
I'm working. Can I ask you a question before everybody hangs up?
Yeah.
I'm working on Hibernate. Where does the Hibernate XML config XML need to go?
It's in the same folder.
You keep saying it's not found.
In
the same folder as my class and everything else, it says not found. I don't have a default package. I have like a.
So, if the best way I've found to get this to work is you go in here into your thing and click on your portfolio.
Yeah.
And go to new, and then if you go to, see, mine already has the thing in there, Hibernate Configuration Wizard. But if you go to other and just search for Hibernate, it puts it in the right place for you.
It does. Okay. I just built one from scratch. Like, you can call it there's a way when you build an XML file, it asks you a couple questions, but that's a lot better because I didn't do that before.
It placed this here for me. It did a lot of other stuff for me, so that's what I recommend. Guys, I was having the same problem.
Yeah.
Is I just dropped it into. Oh, the other thing is when you build this, for some reason it doesn't copy it over. So you have to. Sorry, I got to run back through my mind here. It was in. in the build. And the classes? Yeah. So I had to copy this over manually. But you
Oh,
can go from your, I don't know why it doesn't do this, but you go to your source, just copy here, go back to build, to classes, and paste here. And this is where it needs it specifically, but for some reason mine doesn't copy that over, so if I ever have to make changes to it, I have to do that, but I mean, if you look at it, it really doesn't change much. You tell it what server and port, and, well, now you guys know my super secret password.
oh yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
it was a pain. That took me all of a day. I'm like, what is going on?
well, I've been fighting with it for a couple hours today, and that saved me a ton of time.
Yeah, I decided to just start over from scratch, and that's it. That worked. Granted, it said it couldn't see it, but it just copied it over, and that worked fine.
No, thank you.
No, I'm glad I saw that too. I have no idea what's ahead of me here, so.
Yeah, you look like you're about done with this class, Owen. Jeez.
No. So I didn't realize how point and click all of this crap is.
Yeah.
The design for this interface. I mean, that's amazing how it took me literally 30 minutes to build all of this stuff out. And
Where's that at?
this is I'm doing a personal project, so
It's under. Okay.
yeah. So I mean, I've already got all this stuff worked
yeah.
out. Pops up the log on, and you got an about.
Wow.
It's literally point and click. This is so freaking simple. They make it very easy for you. If you want to add one, you just do. I had a view class here, so you just do new and JFrame form, or you can do other types. There's JPanels, and it literally gives you just like a blank sheet here, and you can drag and drop from the palette.
And it puts all the code together for you, huh?
Yeah, it's a WYSIWYG editor basically. It's awesome.
It did. I did none of this coding. You actually can't edit it.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I was wondering.
It's like the website builder things. You know, anyone can build a website. Now anybody can program in Java.
Yeah. Now the only thing that it does let you edit is the actual different, like the log on action and the exit, all the different actions for your buttons. But yeah, the rest of it's locked down.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was amazing. I literally watched a 5-minute YouTube video, and then I was a expert swing operator.
There you go.
So.
Cool.
All right, well, I'm gonna step out and
I'm
eat
gonna
this pasta that my wife brought me. So.
Well, I will see you guys later. I'll post the videos and the diagram in PDF format to the community.
Cool.
All right. We'll see you next week.